Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's May 30th, 2019. I'm out in the central garden plot right now, and I thought I'd give you a bit of a garden update. It's been almost 2 weeks since we posted the last update, and the weather just has not cooperated at all. We've had lots of rain, very cold temperatures, and lots of overcast. It looks like the sun's going to peek out again right now. So I thought what I'd do is, since this past Memorial weekend, we were able to get most of the transplants in the ground, and I thought I'd show you the central and the eastern garden plots, give you an update on those. So we're here right now over by the workshop area, and outside along the wall of the workshop area is all the comfrey here. Now, I'm going to call this garden our weed-free garden. It's not completely weed-free, but it is almost weed-free, and that's because we use all the black mats the way that we do, and we plant everything in single columns with the exception of the last bed, which we'll get to in a moment. We've been using these tomato cages now for several years. These ones I just got finished making this week. They're one square longer, so they're 12 foot 6 inches, making a circumference about 29 inches. I'm sorry, making the diameter about 28 and a half, 29 inches in diameter. We secure them with two sections of rebar, half-inch rebar, which the rebar are attached to the tomato cages with some reusable wire ties, and I'll put a link to those in the description below. But by using the weed mat as a planting the tomato plants in a single row going down this path here, it actually works out pretty darn well, so that we can put the rebar down in that same slot between the two sections of weed mat, and we can attach each cage to two sections of rebar simultaneously, and it really enhances the stability of those rebar reinforced concrete mesh cages. I really like these because they allow you to get your hands in there nice and easily to do if you have to do pruning, or if you have to arrange the limbs, or for harvesting as well. We have this garden bed on a drip irrigation with one orbit timer over there. The drip irrigation is down, I think it's 12 psi to feed the whole system, and this is just one run for this whole garden bed. It works out pretty well. So the tomato plants are planted 2 foot on center, and they're the San Marzano tomatoes. Hope I'm saying it. It's like the nice, firm, not too juicy, nice, sweet tasting canning tomatoes that we eat with just about everything. The next row here, and these are permanent raised beds underneath these weed mats, are the red cabbage, and interplanted between the red cabbage are basil plants as well. Now, will we be harvesting much of the basil from here? Probably not as much as from one of the other plots, small plots in the central garden. I'm sorry, in the eastern garden plot. But these are being planted pretty close to the tomato plants, and they're a really nice companion plant for the tomato plants as well. So the red cabbage did very well when we had our transplants of all these plants, with the exception of the eggplant. We used the 72 cell trays, and the root structure on each one of the plugs looked really, really good as well. So all of these plants went into the soil quite easily. Here we have some scarlet kale on the third permanent raised bed. And one of the things we'll do to reduce the weed load in between each one of these kale plants and between each one of these other plants is that weed mat has been stapled back right next to the drip tape. And once the plants get bigger and they get more of a callus, more of an outer toughness to their main stem, then I'll close up the weed fabric around each one of those plants, since it's just sort of like set back where it's got a wrinkle in it now, and that'll help to reduce the weed load as well. One of the things I'm always trying to do is decrease the amount of effort we have to put into maintaining the beds once we've got them started. The next row here, we got some cauliflower. These ones are 2 foot on center, the way we've got those set. Similar situation, we're going to be using the weed mat to cover them up once they toughen up in a couple of weeks' time as well. And on the 5th row here, we have some of our curly kale. Absolutely love this. The only challenges we've had in the past when we had it in our eastern garden plot was the small leaves of the locust tree getting intermixed and getting caught up in some of the leaves of the curly kale. And that's one of the ones we can come out and harvest a whole bunch at one time, get it set in the freezer, and that works out great. The next plant here, the next row in our 6th row, 6th row, are our eggplants. These are more of the oriental long type eggplants. These ones were really slow to germinate. The root mass didn't completely fill the 72 cell plots, but these are ones that hopefully they'll take off and do as well as our other oriental eggplants in the past. Next row over here, we got a row of broccoli. I've still got to put some weed mat down on top of this one. You can see how close the drip tape is to it. The double blue line faces up. The orifices where the drips of water come out are every 6 inches on these drip tape pieces. Works out very well. We have a control valve at each end of each one of the drip tapes in case we get a leak or there's a problem. I can isolate it and separate that system. Now this is the bed. Well, I got the Jang cedar out after prepping this bed. I flame weeded it because lots of weed seeds germinated, and then I came back and had to re-rake out the bed, and of course I stirred up more, exposed more weed seeds when I did that. And I used the Jang cedar to go ahead and start some carrots. Unfortunately, I used the wrong wheel, which has a different size orifice, so all of a sudden all of the carrot seeds, so there's going to be one row with really densely populated seeds, and then I went ahead, got the correct roller in, and I probably ran out before I finished doing the other couple of rows, because I didn't look in the hopper and make sure I had enough seed in there, so I ran out. So we'll see what actually does germinate in here. I did have carrots in this bed last year. I didn't add any more compost or anything yet, but we'll see. I may end up doing something else in this bed ultimately. And I didn't hook up the drip tape yet. It's been so wet and rainy, and I've got a hose here behind me that I've used to go ahead and water this surface down. Carrots really do need lots of water to keep those seeds nice and moist for germinating. In the next couple of days, I'll go ahead and flame weed this again and wait for those carrot seeds to erupt. So let's go over to the eastern garden plot. Okay, I'm over here in the eastern garden plot, and right behind the camera here is the iris semicircle going around the raised lavender patch that's around the statue. This year and last year, we've had such terribly long, cold, dark, damp, wet fall, winter, and spring that it's just been too much for the lavender plants. There's several of them still alive, but most of them have been wiped out for all this terribly wet period, despite it being designed where it has really good gravel below it and it's raised well above all the other surrounding area. The irises have been doing really well so far this season, so two types of them have already completely set their flowers and all, and we have, I think, 2 or 3 more flushes of flowers to come from the other varieties that are here. So we'll go into the cattle panel trellis tunnel here, and down each side of the trellis here, on one side we have the scarlet red runner beans, which are great big beautiful beans. They've got a pretty nice germination there. And on the other side we've got the Cherokee Trail of Tear beans as well. And again, this one's operated by right now currently 3 sections of drip irrigation, all controlled off of one water source as well. So the beans are doing pretty well so far. Then we have our leeks. We have 2 permanent raised beds of leeks. That's one of our necessities, always having enough leeks to freeze and dehydrate, since we use it in so much of our cooking and all. So the leeks, we use Jean-Martin Fortier's technique. I build a dibbler, which I'm going to have to build another one. He recommends making the dibbles about 9 inches long. I made ours 11 to 12 inches long, and pushed those down into these permanent raised beds. And then we took our leeks. We didn't trim the roots on these. We raised them in individual 72 cell plugs, and we just dropped the plugs, or if the roots came out of the plug, we set them right down in there as well. And as you can see, some of the surface of some of the leeks are, the green part is sticking up above it, so they're doing pretty well. By really using a dibbler and sticking these leeks way down deep into the permanent raised beds, it gives you much more of the edible part of the leeks, that white part that's really desirable. So it's a technique that works extremely well, and you don't have to do mounding up the soil afterwards to get that really tall edible portion as well. Next, it looks like we've got a permanent raised bed of broccoli in this bed. And these are, they look like they're 2 foot on center but alternated. And this is a little more bio-intensive here. We'll see with the new wire weeding tools that I have how easy it is to maintain this. I'll make a separate video about the paths and the area all around in this area here, which is all wood chips, and so that video will be coming. I'll tell you, this has really created some excellent soil by using wood chips in the paths here. So here we have the cauliflower planted in a similar fashion, and again some more red cabbage over here. We have a single permanent raised bed, which is a shallower one, where we have some scallions down the center of this bed. Then we have the red onions that were bulbs and some of the seeds that did germinate. We had a really bad time with our red onion germination rate with the seeds that we had purchased. Here are some of our hot peppers. I think these ones may be the chili peppers over here as well. Then, and of course, the big arbor up there, the pergola rather, that has the hardy kiwi in it. And there's lots of little buttons there, but again, this year we have almost no pollinators in the area, unfortunately. Such a shame. So all along this this wall here, we have right here, it looks like a bunch of cauliflower, some dill mixed in as well, and some red cabbage, and then some broccoli as well. Here's the small bed of the basil, and we'll be pinching off the tops of the rest of these as well, so we can get them more bush-like and cover this whole bed up quite well. Now we're going to go over into the other area here. So this is another one of our hoop trellises. This one we've got butternut squash on the outside over here along the north side of the trellis. Looks like we've got a couple of chard, some celery down there as well, but I think that's mainly it. And we have some banana peppers here and some hot peppers here as well. And then down at the end down there, we've got some ginger planted. I just transplanted the ginger from a pot that we started. We started those shortly after we started the sweet potatoes slips inside. And then on the outside of this trellis, we have some Georgia sweet candy winter squash, which was a really big, delicious one from last year. They didn't last as long in the season. They started to go bad, so we harvested as much as we could and cooked them up. And the same thing happened with the blue Hubbards as well. And we'll get down to there. So there's some chives planted in between these as well. And there's some calendula and dill planted down at this end. I just redid the spearmint, which is on the outside of the dog run down along in there. Just mowed that down and added more soil to that. Then over here in this raised bed is the garlic that I never got to get up to the upper garlic beds last fall because of the amount of rain and how wet all of the beds were up there. So we have some scallions and some garlic planted in here that we got started in the fall. And this is the strawberry bed that we added, that we refreshed and put new compost in last season. I come down here to the end. This is the rain gutter garden bed. I'll have to flame weed this. I just got these beds set a short time ago. And then we'll come over here. Here's the 2-year-old strawberry bed. Lots and lots of beautiful flowers. Not sure just how successful things will be this season because of the extent of, the paucity of the pollinators in the area. Even our mason bees and our bumblebees are way, way down in numbers. There are some good pollinating flies. I've seen lots of birds eating many of the flowers off of the trees and the food forests. Here we've got some kidney beans interplanted between the zephyr squash. And so the transplants of the squash, cucumbers, and one pumpkin all took pretty well. They went back into the ground pretty darn well. And then down here we have the blue Hubbards that got in the ground just, I think it was Monday on Memorial Day, so it's just a couple of days ago. So that's it for right here, right now. If the winds stay calm and the sun comes out, I'll go ahead and shoot a little overhead drone footage of the area as well. And that's it. We've got most of the plants in the ground. I'll shoot a video on using the wood chips in your paths in the gardens and how that's worked out for us, which is really 5 stars. Really, it's been fantastic. And another video I'll be doing is an update on the western garden plot, where all of the perennial plants, the hardwood cuttings, give you an update on how those plants are doing over there as well. And then possibly an update on all the figs and the citrus trees that we had in with the ducks all winter. They took a bit of a hit when the sun did come out one day and just burnt a lot of the leaves. Hardening them off is a little bit tough. Here are geese going back and forth. So, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Always look forward to it. Sorry there hasn't been a video posted in a while, but I'm trying. We're doing the best we can. Thanks so much for watching, folks, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.